How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
My fellow Americans, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be very happy to have you. I hope you're ready for the weekend. I hope you get sunshine this weekend. I am so tired of this drizzly sky we've had for several days here in Middle Georgia. There is data out that I want to discuss right now, and I mentioned this a little bit ago. I mentioned this the other day. Jesse Arm and Matthew Nee at the Manhattan Institute they've done a deep dive survey of the United States, Americans, the GOP coalition, minorities within MAGA. It's actually really, really interesting data, and I touched on it the other day a little bit. National survey conducted by the Manhattan Institute examines today's Republican Party and the coalition assembled to elect Donald Trump, one of the most exhaustive studies of a multi-ethnic working-class GOP. Nearly 3,000 voters, including large oversamples of Black and Hispanic Republicans and or 2024 voters. They were asked about a wide range of policy issues as well as identity politics, populism, conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, and other forms of racial bias. The findings point to a coalition that is divided into two broad segments. The majority are long-standing Republicans who have backed the party for many years, are consistently conservative on economic, foreign policy, and social issues. They favor lower taxes, a hawkish view on China, remain firmly pro-Israel, and are highly skeptical of the progressive agendas on transgender and DEI issues. A sizable minority happen to be new entrants to the GOP coalition over the past two presidential cycles. They're younger, more racially diverse, and more likely to have voted for Democratic candidates in the recent past. This group diverges sharply from the party's majority. They are likely, often substantially more likely, to hold progressive views across nearly every major policy domain. They are more supportive of left-leaning economic policies, more favorable towards China, more critical of Israel, more liberal on issues ranging from migration to DEI initiatives. A significant share report openly racist or anti-Semitic views and express potential support for political violence. Yet they overwhelmingly identify as Republicans today, and they voted for Donald Trump in 2024. So how does this break down? Well, the survey's first major finding is that the overwhelming majority of the current Republican Party rejects racism, anti-Semitism, and conspiratorial thinking in politics. But a meaningful minority, 17%, would meet our definition of anti-Jewish Republicans. They self-identify as both racist and anti-Semitic and express Holocaust denialism or describe Israel as a colonial state, or do not self-identify that way, but hold those positions. Anti-Jewish Republicans are younger, disproportionately male, more likely to be college educated, and significantly more likely to be new entrants to the Republican Party. Now, you got that one tidbit there? They happen to be more likely to be college educated. Male, college educated, younger. What the colleges in the United States have done to the brains of people is something. Now, I want to tie this to a story from yesterday. You're not going to get this anywhere else, but you're going to get it from me. Yesterday, I read from an op-ed by former Senator and University of Florida President Ben Sasse. And he noted that increasingly college students in this country are unable to perform basic math skills, both word problems and basic math skills. So he gave 2 examples. 7 plus 2 equals 6 plus blank. What is blank? To put it another way, 7 plus 2 equals 6 plus x. What is x? And then he gave a word problem. Sally has 9 pennies and 9 dimes. How many coins does Sally have? Let me explain that word problem to you, if you don't get it, because some of you, your first reaction is 18. And you're right. How many coins does she have? But some of you, your first reaction is 99 cents. She's got 9 pennies and 9 dimes. How many coins does Sally have? The answer is she has 18 coins. She's got 9 pennies and 9 dimes. But some people will conclude this is a problem asking for how much money does she have? 99 cents. The answer is 18 because the problem asks for coins. Now, what does all of this have to do with the Republican Party, new entrants and college educated? Increasingly in this country, we have a breakdown in math skills in the country. And most of you listening right now, I would venture to say over 60% of you listening right now are in my camp and my kids' camp and my wife's camp, that I never have to do this in real life. Why am I doing it? Why do I have to solve this algebraic equation? I'm never going to use algebra in my real life. Why do I have to figure out the Pythagorean theorem? Why do I need to know that you add up the angles of a triangle and it equals 180 degrees? Why do I need to know that? Why is pi r square relevant to me, pi r round? Y'all, I was out of law school when I learned this. I was probably in my 30s when I learned this. Let me let you into a little insight. Do you know the reason you learn math in high school? You know the reason you learn algebra? Because you're right, you're never actually going to use algebraic equations unless you're going to be an engineer or something. I went to law school to avoid math. You know why you learn math? You learn math for logic and reason. You know, there's the order of how you do a math equation. Start with the stuff in the parentheses and work your way out. I can't remember the order anymore, but there's a logic. Math is not teaching you algebra so much as math is teaching you logic and reason. And as our math skills have broken down in this country, we have increasingly become more emotional and less reasonable. We've become more illogical. There's a direct rise in conspiratorial thinking in the young and the inability to do math. I don't know that this is my own insight. I haven't read it anywhere else, but having digested all of these different reports, I can tell you there is a direct correlation between young people in this country's inability to do math and they're tying to conspiratorial thinking. Why? Because there's a breakdown in logic. When you don't learn math, you're not learning logic and problem solving, and yet in life, you still have to encounter problems and solve them. And if you don't use regular logic that you learn through the learning math and learn the rules of logic, you come up with your own logical things and you get to fantastical thinking like, I feel like, or I think, my truth is. And we see this in a postmodern world, and postmodernity is directly tied to the breakdown in math skills. And it's not a surprise to me that college-educated kids are increasingly holding to fantastical beliefs because the kids who go to college more and more are getting indoctrinated by professors who take advantage of the lack of reason and the elevation of emotion, and they brainwash kids. In fact, according to the Manhattan Institute, these views are not unique among Republicans. The survey finds slightly higher levels of anti-Jewish sentiment among Democrats, 20%, compared to 17% among Republicans. And despite the internal differences, core Republicans and new entrants remain overwhelmingly favorable towards Donald Trump and Vice President Vance. This is not a coalition in revolt against his leadership. Where the divide becomes electorally significant is in partisan stability. 56% of new entrant Republicans say they would definitely support a Republican in 2026, compared to 70% of core Republicans. The same new entrant bloc is more likely to express tolerance for racist or anti-Semitic speech, more likely to support political violence, more conspiratorial, and on core policy questions considerably more liberal than the party's traditional base. These voters are drawn to Trump, not to the GOP, which means the Republican Party has a solid, cohesive core and a younger, more ideologically unstable outer core. And I do not think it's a coincidence that the younger people are the ones coming from school systems that have failed at math, gone to college, and gotten indoctrinated based on emotion, not logic and reason. We see the emotion spilling out every day. Look at Nikki Haley's son complaining about the standard of living and where he should be and where his friends should be in society. And when you point out that they haven't really had to sacrifice, they get very deeply offended because it's their truth. Their truth is that they have already sacrificed as the 24-year-old coming into the job market. They can't get the job they want with six figures right now. Therefore, the world sucks and it's deeply unfair. That's fantastical thinking for a 20-something. Yes, there are problems. I don't mean to minimize them. But at the end of the day, the conclusions of a broken system aren't actually there. It's that everybody else has had hard times too. And we're not going to ever get out of hard times. But they think because the hard times have continually evolved to get better over time. I mean, today you're having 2 or 3 kids. You're not having 15 kids thinking 10 of them are going to die. Healthcare has improved. Now you get rid of vaccines, we may get back there. We'll see. The point, however, is we have more emotional thinking and less logic as our math skills have declined as a society, and that is a product of education. And so it's not a surprise that college-educated young people are the people most likely to dive into conspiracies. It's not the blue-collar plumber who knows how to do the math and the logic of tying cables and wires together to turn your lights on and get certain different sorts of tubes connected together to build you a pipe that flushes your toilet. It's people with too much time on their hands who went to college whose brains got broken. Ironically, the data reveals something else as well. Do you want to know who in the Republican coalition is the least anti-Semitic? You want to know how to fight anti-Semitism? You want to know how to cure anti-Semitism in the GOP? There's one group in the Republican Party, and when you extrapolate out everything else, when you take out all the ancillary data, there's one group in the Republican Party that is the least prone to conspiratorial thinking and the least anti-Semitic. And do you know what that group is? Those who go to church. The more you go to church, this study for the Manhattan Institute shows, the less you are anti-Semitic and the less you believe conspiracy theories. This is, I can't tell you now in the last 20 years how many surveys I have shown or been shown, how many studies I have read. It doesn't matter where they're from, whether they're Harvard or Yale or Oxford, Cambridge, the Manhattan Institute, various other think tanks in Washington, D.C. People who go to church tend to have less fantastical thinking and less anti-Semitism, because their fantastical thinking is in an empty tomb and a virgin birth. And all of that fantastical thinking right there, you can process the rest of the world without the crazy. All the miracles are there. You don't need miracles in the modern world. This is a very fascinating study of the Republican Party, the Republican coalition, and how it is clearly going to break apart when Donald Trump leaves. As I told you guys the other day, that in the United States of America and around the world, regardless of where you are, populist movements are predicated on a populist leader. And when he goes away, it collapses. It may not collapse immediately. It may take a generation away, another breaking up under J.D. Vance or someone like that. But it's going to happen, and this data shows why. You have a deeply unstable Republican coalition. And ironically, what the data also shows is as these younger people who have more left-leaning sensibilities come into the party, they've chased away suburban voters into the hands of the Democratic Party. You could have another realignment once Donald Trump goes away and revert the parties back to the mean, which would be an interesting situation. But also keep in mind that with this coalition, Donald Trump won the popular vote in the United States. He won it. It just happens to be deeply unstable. Guys, if you struggle to come up with gifts for family members, I got a suggestion for you, the Cove Pure. I love mine. I wasn't sure I would like it as much as I do, and I really, really, really do. What is a Cove Pure? Well, it's an water filtration system. It's on the countertop. You can get cold water. You can get hot water. It even has a bottle button, so you can get the warm bottle perfect for formula for your baby at night. It's really easy. It's so convenient. I use it all the time in my office. You will love it. It sits on the countertop. It uses reverse osmosis. It gets rid of like pharmaceuticals, fluoride, lead, arsenic. It's the purest water you can get. It tastes fantastic. If you're looking for a great gift for your loved ones or for yourself that they're actually going to use the Cove Pure. I partnered with them. They're giving you a $250 holiday discount with my link, covepure.com/Eric. That's covepure.com/Eric, ERICK. You get $250 off, covepure.com/Eric. The sale is going to end, so take advantage of this $250 holiday discount, covepure.com/Eric. Greetings and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, let's go to Warren. Welcome to the show, Warren. How are you?
Good afternoon. How are you?
Great. What's going on?
So I'm calling from Palm Beach. We've got a very large Jewish Orthodox synagogue community down here in Palm Beach. We experience anti-Semitism fairly regularly, even in Palm Beach. And but I just want to say we appreciate what you were just talking about people who go to church. We find that a lot of our neighbors in the Palm Beach area who go to church, they are not the anti-Semitic people. It's the people who don't go to churches. Those are. I'm coming off sounding like a bumbling idiot, and I apologize, but
no,
that's what we find. That's what we find down here, and it's.
It's such counterintuitive to a degree because you hear from the left, you go to church, you believe the Jews killed Jesus. No, actually, if you go to church, you learn everybody killed Jesus. It's such an issue. So, okay, Warren, I got to hold you hostage, and I can't keep you long because I got a commercial break coming up. But every time I have been to Palm Beach, the weather's horrible, and it's apparently a beautiful place. Rush used to joke with me when he lived down there that I always picked the worst times of year to come. When do you actually go to Palm Beach that the water's not rough and it's clear and beautiful?
Anytime from after hurricane season ends, which is December 1st through May, June, and then it's perfect.
Okay.
And if you come down, I've got a Lang smoker out of Nahanta, Georgia, and I'll make you some of the best kosher barbecue you've ever had.
Oh, deal. Man, thank you for calling. Warren, thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to take you up on that, too. I absolutely am. Oh, man, I got to tell you, Jews and brisket, it's like next level heaven. Okay, now we got to tell you about Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College is an amazing place for great education. You go to ericforhillsdale.com. ERICK, ericforhillsdale.com. And now I'm going to be thinking about Warren's brisket instead. So they got 40 classes to choose from. You can get chemistry, economics, mathematics. You get political science, philosophy, history, literature. If that sounds boring to you, here's the catch. These are with their great faculty and their 30-minute lectures, and there's a topic you're interested in, and they probably have it of those 40, and you get smarter about it. They're all entertaining, and you do it at your own pace at no charge. No charge. Go to ericforhillsdale.com, E-R-I-C-K, ericforhillsdale.com. You sign up with Hillsdale College today. You get smarter about a topic you're interested in at no charge to you. You learn about Hillsdale College, see what sets them apart. They're almost harder to get in than the Ivy League these days, and they're great. ericforhillsdale.com. Sign up today. In business, they say you can have better, cheaper, or faster, but you can only pick two. What if you could have all three at the same time? That's exactly what Cohere, Thomson Reuters, and Specialized Bikes have since they've upgraded to the next generation of the cloud, Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. OCI is the blazing fast platform for your infrastructure, database, application development, and AI needs, where you can run any workload in a high availability, consistently high performance environment and spend less than you would with other clouds. How's it faster? OCI's block storage gives you more operations per second. Cheaper? OCI costs up to 50% less for compute, 70% less for storage, and 80% less for networking. Better? In test after test, OCI customers report lower latency and higher bandwidth versus other clouds. This is the cloud built for AI and for all your biggest workloads. Right now, with zero commitment, try OCI for free. Head to oracle.com/Erickson, ERICKSON. That's oracle.com/Erickson. Greetings. Welcome. So I normally like to watch CNBC more than the news stuff. It's fascinating. Like, I like the business news more than Fox and CNN. So much of the programming at Fox is designed to keep you coming back to see if the existential terror they told you about yesterday has been solved today. And at CNN, it's all it really is just strikingly, now that Trump is back in office, just so anti-Trump all the time. I've declined more appearances on CNN than not over the last number of months since Trump's been back, in large part because they want me to be the token Republican who comes on and criticizes Trump, and I don't want to be that guy. I'm willing to criticize him, but they make Scott Jennings be the defender and everybody else attacks him, and I got plenty of praise for his positions, and I'm willing to defend him. And inevitably what happens is I get invited to come on a show, and they ask me what my views actually are, and it turns out it's not nearly as critical as they expected it to be, and they cancel the interview. And I'm just, I don't want to be that guy. And it just, I've given up on so much cable news. I actually think we're better off. I did get a very interesting note the other day from a lady because I was saying, it's unplug, turn off social media, stop worrying about it. She's like, isn't it weird for you to be in this position where you're a conservative talk radio show host and you're telling us not to listen? It's like, I didn't say don't listen to me. I will sort through the news for you. In fact, we know from the research on my show that most of the people who listen to my show actually tune in because I'll tell you what the news is and then you go on about your day, as opposed to keeping you in an existential terror on a daily basis with essentially what amounts to glorified storytelling. Now, all radio is storytelling, and my job is to keep you entertained at the end of the day. But I could not sleep at night if I was weaving these stories together every day into some sort of elaborate conspiracy theory to keep you tuning in the next day for the next round, like what Candace Owens is doing. Candace Owens, years ago, when I was running Red State, so I did not found Red State. A lot of people attribute the founding of Red State to me. It was actually three friends of mine, Josh Trevino, Mike Krapowski, and Ben Dominich, who started Red State. They invited me on like day one. I was a writer, and over time, it turned out not only did I write, but I also did campaign finance law. They needed a lawyer, so they put me in charge, and I wound up leaving my law firm, running Red State. And so I get credit as the founder. I was the first CEO and editor of Red State. Was there for 10 years and decided that I had been there long enough. It had been bought by a competing radio company. I wanted to do more integrating my radio show. Couldn't do it because of that, and decided it was time to move on and focus on radio. Make the main thing the main thing. And the main thing by then was radio. And while I was there, I remember I'd go to CPAC, and well-meaning elderly women would come up to me and they say, have you heard of that young lady, Candace Owens? Have you heard of that young lady, Candace Owens? You should have Candace Owens right at Red State. You should do an interview with Candace Owens. You should platform Candace Owens. You should have her on your radio show. I got to admit, so she had been on the left. Candace Owens had started on the left and then apparently had some epiphany. She went on the right, and ultimately, at the end of the day, I don't know. So I've got an old boss who's gay. Love the dude. Great guy. I had no idea. It's like, clearly I got a broken gaydar. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was like, you didn't know? I was like, no, it took me a while to figure. I didn't know. Salt of the earth guy, love him dearly, had no idea. He's a great guy. So I may have a broken gaydar, but y'all, I knew Candace Owens was crazy the moment I first laid eyes on her. That chick is nuts, and she always has been. And I may have problems picking up clues on some people, but crazy I know. Do you know how I know crazy? This is going to be very sexist, and I don't mean it to be. But every single one of you listening right now who did the same thing, you know I'm going to tell you the truth. And so I need to bracket this bit of conversation that I don't mean to offend any one of you. I say this lovingly. I really don't mean to offend you. And there's a small segment of this audience who's listening right now who's going to be able to relate to me. And when I say it, they're going to say, uh-huh. None of the rest of you are going to be able to relate, and you're going to think I'm being sexist, and I'm not. The segment of the population that experienced this reality will know immediately I'm telling the truth. Do you know how I knew Candace Owens was nuts from the moment I first heard her? And again, I don't mean to offend anybody. You know how I know? Because I went to law school. Erickson, what does going to law school have to do with knowing when some chick is crazy? If you went to law school, you would understand. In college, you find women who are looking for the MRS degree. In college, you find a lot of crazy neurotics. And Candace Owens, boy, she struck me as she should have gone to law school. Now, listen, that's not sexist. I'm just telling you, every man and woman who went to law school knows exactly what I'm talking about. You all had them in your law school class, and I don't know what it is, but there is something about crazy women going to law school. Not all women who go to law school are crazy, but pretty much every crazy woman goes to law school. Candace Owens struck me as that sort of type. We had those. We had them. I don't want this conversation to go off the rails and get me hate mail from people, but y'all know exactly what I'm talking about if you went to law school. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And Candace Owens, when these people started coming up to me, and this is in the early 2000s and in the mid 2000s, like, oh, you should platform Candace Owens. Oh, you should listen to Candace Owens. Like, no. No. There's something wrong with her. But you know what she did, and this is the blight of conservative media. She got attention. It didn't matter how crazy she was, she got attention. And to a degree, those of you who feel discombobulated right now in particularly conservative politics, and you're wondering why you feel discombobulated, the reason is because you got a bunch of websites that wanted to get attention, and they needed crazy to get attention. When I was at Red State and the editor of Red State, it was more of a group blog. It was a group effort. And while I was the face of the site, there were a lot of us who had been there for a while, and we worked very hard to keep out the crazy. And the result was we did not have the explosive growth of other websites, but we had a lot more influence. We had a lot of influence. I do this podcast in the afternoons after the show is over called The 4 Things You Need to Know This Afternoon. And it's 5 minutes. It's all the news that has happened towards the end of the show. Because, every afternoon is when they break a lot of news, and the show is going off the air at 3 o'clock. I don't have time to get to it. So I do this 5 minutes. Here are these 4 things. You're going to hear about them on the evening news. You better know about them right now. You can go look, 4 things to know this afternoon. That's the podcast, separate from the radio podcast. If you text Eric to 33777, you can get the link to it. Do you know if it doesn't come out, I get text messages from governors. I'm not making this up. From governors, from senators, from members of Congress, from a couple people at the White House, from several senior ranking people. It's not high listenership. It's growing. But it is deeply influential, the people who listen to it. People in the White House, people in the State Department, people in the Pentagon, people in Congress, people in governors' mansions, prominent state legislators around the country. If it doesn't come out, I get emails, where is it? From prominent people. At Red State, it was the same way. We were the most read website on Capitol Hill, but we weren't big. We didn't get hundreds of thousands of daily readers. We got 30, 40,000. But it was really influential. And that influence can sell. You just have to have the right advertiser. And over time, my bosses got frustrated with me because of it. I was like, you're selling it the wrong way. No, we don't get the most eyeballs. We get the eyeballs and the ears of the people you want. And that's the way you got to sell it. Candace Owens gets clicks. And she was elevated within the conservative movement for clicks. And the thing about the clicks is the people who depend on the clicks, they get captured by their audience. And they begin to tell their audience stories, and the audience has to come back the next day for more of the story. She's an anti-Semite. She was of the left. She's headed back to the left. She's a nut. And now she's peddling the Charlie Kirk conspiracy theories about the murder. Charlie Kirk was murdered by a leftist activist who was into furry sex culture and dating a transgender guy. I guess a man transitioning to a woman named Tyler Robinson. And Candace Owens has concocted this elaborate story that it was the Jews or Turning Point USA. She knows how to get attention. She knows how to get attention about the French president and his wife, and they're about to sue her into oblivion. But it's not just Candace Owens. It trickles out into the rest of the medium as well. You get Candace Owens and her anti-Semitism. You get Tucker Carlson. He wants his clicks. He wants his traffic. He's got to have it. He no longer has Fox News providing his medical insurance. He doesn't have Fox News paying him a salary. He's got to be as outlandish as possible, and he keeps platforming anti-American people. In fact, he's platforming some friend of Russia again. You get all of these people, they want the clicks, they want the traffic, they get captured by the audience, and they got to keep feeding the audience, feeding the audience, feeding the audience. I never want to do that. I never want to be a part of that. I have influence because I'm not dependent on the click. And this is not to pat myself on the back or anything else. It's just I see where conservative media has headed, and I look at the Blaze and this story of they wanted to believe that the pipe bombs on January 6th were an inside job by the feds. They found a woman who they decided to publicly pin it on. Very, very brave of them to do, to it. Crazy, but brave. They named a woman. They exposed her. They said, this is the woman who planted the pipe bombs. It wasn't her. It was Brian Cole. It was not a white woman. It was a black man. And you know what's happening online today? The spin is, I don't think it's a coincidence. The Blaze named this woman as a suspect, and suddenly the feds have trotted out the real person? Said, a distraction. It's an op. That's what you hear from these people. It's an op. Everything is apparently an op, except the op. The fantastical thinking of the conspiracy theorists designed to get attention and traction. And that's what it is. These people are willing to ruin themselves over time to get traffic. And y'all, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to tell my audience what I think they want to hear to get their attention, to lure them back in. I see this Candace Owens stuff. It's time to move on from Candace Owens. She is who she always has been, a nut job who she would have done great in law school. It's probably time to move on from the Blaze as they go Groyper and bring in the white nationalists and see the conspiracy theories. There is an unhealthiness within the conservative media movement right now. It's all of these online sites that are trying to compete for Fox's attention. And I want nothing to do with it. I was trading an email with a friend of mine. I turned down a prepper ad. Sports betting and prepper stuff, I don't like to do it. The sports betting stuff, I have turned down now at this point more than $500,000 in advertising because I don't want to do. I don't mind if you bet on sports. Most of my friends do. I just see where this is headed. We're headed to a societal disaster with young men who are getting addicted to sports betting. I want no part of it. And then the prepper stuff. I'm sorry, I'm not going to sell you survival food and a backup battery generator that you can keep in your basement for when China takes over the power grid and we all die. I just find it offensive that people are taking advantage of the fears of particularly senior citizens, and they want you to do that stuff. I'm not going to do it. I see so much of this stuff happening. There is profound brokenness in the world that's spilled out in conservative media, and I just got to tell you, I didn't even mean to go in this direction. I was going to talk about something else. But the Candace Owens stuff at this point, she's always been nuts. I just feel vindicated now after all of these years of telling people she's not right. Suddenly everybody else is seeing it, and the people who aren't seeing it, who are like doubled down in defense of her, well, they're not right either. We got a lot of crazy in the world, and it's manifested in the form of an algorithm on social media, and we all actually would be better off if we deleted social media and got away from the algorithms. If there's anything about this program that I appreciate that I do, it is not algorithm-driven. Too much of the stuff out there now is, and it is bad for society. Ben Shapiro gave a speech the other day. He was in a forum, and he said the algorithm is killing the country. And he's right. The algorithm is specifically designed to keep you anxious, and there's no reason for anxiety. I read the end of the book. You're on the winning team. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to confess that my child is my child. I must read you the text message I just got from my kid. And I quote, "Nothing makes me pro-eugenics faster than people who can't move quickly in the self-checkout deciding to use self-checkout." Wow, my kid is like her father. The only thing worse is when they try to use coupons. I think when you go to the grocery store, there should be a single lane that you go through for check writers and coupon. Now, it's been a while since I've seen a check writer in there. There are some. But you want to use coupons. I got in there the other day, and I was in the 10-item or less line, and there was a woman in there who probably had at least 20 items. And I'm like, it's no big deal. There's been nobody in the line. And then she pulled out the coupons at the end. And I saw the look of dread on the cashier's face. No. You know, so I'm not a coupon shopper, and I know there are people who are and need to be. And this was an older lady, probably on fixed income, and so I do not falter for the coupons. I just falter for going into the 10 items or less line with 20 items, when in and of itself not a problem. And then she pulls out the stack of coupons at the end. She didn't even put them with the individual items. She waited until the end. Oh. And then the self-checkout. So is this happening in y'all's grocery stores too? You don't need to call in about this. Seriously. I'm just venting here for a moment. That like our grocery store, my beloved Publix, now has self-checkout. And people take like grocery buggies full of stuff. They should limit that to like five items or less. People literally, I don't understand the people who want to go through the self-checkout and scan all their groceries. There is a very nice young man or woman or elderly woman who is in a line that is willing to process your groceries. And I promise you that he or she will do it faster than you. Even if there's someone in the grocery line at that moment in front of you, you're probably still going to get through faster than if you have 100 items piled up in your buggy and you're trying to do it yourself. I think they should prohibit that. It's not death penalty level. Death penalty level is like driving slow in the fast lane. Last night on my way home, there's this toll road, and it becomes a single lane. And I got to the single lane, 70-mile-an-hour speed limit. I was doing more than that. Red Corvette, 63 miles an hour. I tried to pray down hellfire on the person, and it didn't work. Swiss America would like to help you navigate the secret war on cash, because it's a thing, you know. In fact, maybe I shouldn't say this in this app, but you know, one of the ways they found the suspect in D.C. was through his credit card purchases. and his purchases. The FBI, they like to monitor your purchases. And the federal government would prefer you to not use cash because it's harder for them to monitor your life if you use cash. And so there are great deterrents in place, and crypto as well. Swiss America has a report about the secret war on cash. You can get a free copy by calling or texting 800-289-2646. Mention my name, Eric, 800-289-2646. You can also go to SwissAmerica.com/Eric, SwissAmerica.com/ERICK. It's a very fascinating report. Takes less than 15 minutes to read. Text Eric to 800-289-2646. Message and data rates may apply.